Welcome to another episode of Hazardous Verbal Waste. I'm your host, Shira Chan. Today is Sunday, February 2nd, 2020. This is episode 18. Got a lot of really cool stuff to go over this week, including the semi-limited and unlimited cards from the Forbidden Limited list for Yu-Gi-Oh! And without further ado, let's get right down to it, shall we? In Yu-Gi-Oh! News, continuing with our coverage of the latest Forbidden Limited list that went live on January 20th, today I want to talk about the cards that are on the semi-limited and unlimited list. So those cards that are capped at 2 per deck and the cards that are now capped at 3 per deck. So just to recap, the changes that were made to the semi-limited list include Deep Sea Diva, Tour Guide from the Underworld, and Mind Control. The cards that were recently taken off of the Forbidden Limited list include Dark Arm Dragon, Lady Debug, Morphing Jar number 2, Perfomage Damage Juggler, Tribe Infecting Virus, Sky Striker Ace Kagari, Book of Moon, the Phantom Knights Rank Up Magic Launch, Solemn Warning, and Soul Drain. So first, let's take a look at the 3 cards that were added to the semi-limited list. We have first up Deep Sea Diva. This is a 2-star Sea Serpent Tuner effect water monster. Has 200 attack, 400 defense, and its effect is when this card is normal summoned, you can special summon 1 level 3 or lower Sea Serpent type monster from your deck. Pretty good for those Sea Serpent decks, especially with Mako Tsunami decks being very popular right now with the Speed Duel sets. The next card on the semi-limited list is Tour Guide from the Underworld. This is a 3-star Fiend effect Dark Monster. 1000 attack, 600 defense. Its effect, when this card is normal summon, you can special summon 1 level 3 Fiend monster from your hand or deck, but it has its effects negated. Also, it cannot be used as a synchro material. Alright, don't really have any comments on that one. The last card from the semi-limited changes is Mind Control. This is a normal spell. Target 1 monster your opponent controls until the end phase. Take control of that target, but it cannot declare an attack or be tributed. So, pretty decent for those decks that are looking to do Xyz summons. On the unlimited list, those cards that are no longer limited and are now at 3 per deck. Starting off, we have Dark Arm Dragon. This is a 7-star Dragon Effect Dark Monster. 2800 attack, 1000 defense. Cannot be normal summon or set. Must be special summon from your hand by having exactly 3 dark monsters in your graveyard. You can banish 1 dark monster from your graveyard, then target 1 card on the field, destroy that target. This is an interesting choice to be unlimited, considering how bad the Teledad format was back in the day. Alright, next up, we have Lady Debug. Lady Debug is a 4-star Cybers Effect Light Monster. Its effect, if this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 level 3 or lower Cybers monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Lady Debug once per turn. I do know that a lot of decks that do a lot of link summoning sometimes will use the Cybers monsters, specifically Lady Debug, to kind of turbo out those link monsters. So we'll see how Lady Debug being at 3 affects the meta. Next up, we have Morphing Jar 2. This is a 3-star Rock Effect Earth Monster. And its effect, flip, shuffle all monsters on the field into the deck, then each player excavates cards from the top of their deck until they excavate the same number of monsters they shuffled into their main deck. Special summon all excavated level 4 or lower monsters in face down defense position. Also send the remaining cards to the graveyard. So this card is a good example of how they are changing the verbiage on some of the cards. It used to be draw cards from the top of the deck until you draw the same number of monsters that you shuffle in the main deck, special summon all level 4 or lower monsters in face down defense position that you draw by this effect. Also send the remaining cards to the graveyard. But that's really not the issue here. Morphing Jar number 2 is just being unlimited now, is just one step closer to the empty jar deck, which was a very nasty FTK that could deck your opponent out in one turn, sometimes even the first turn. So we'll see how this being at 3 affects what people play. The next card on the unlimited list is Perfumage Damage Juggler. I do apologize if I'm butchering that card name. It's a level 4 spellcaster effect light monster. Its effect: when a card or effect is activated that would inflict damage to you, quick effect, you can discard this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. During the battle phase, quick effect, you can discard this card, reduce the next battle damage you would take this turn to 0. You can banish this card from your graveyard, add 1 Perfumage monster from your deck to your hand, except Perfumage Damage Juggler. You can only use the effect of Perfumage Damage Juggler once per turn. So, this card came into popularity during the Xyz and during the Pendulum monster era, and I really don't have a idea how this is going to affect the meta at this point. Next up on the list is an oldie but a goodie, Tribe Infecting Virus. This is a level 4 Aqua Effect Water Monster with 1600 attack, 1000 defense. Discard 1 card from your hand and declare 1 type of monster. Destroy all face-up monsters of the declared type on the field. So this was a doozy back in the day. You could clear your opponent's field of everything. And with so many card families, so many archetypes being used these days that have, all of their monsters being spellcasters or all of their monsters being machines, this could be the thing that really turns the tide in a match. The next card on the list is Sky Striker Ace Kagari. This is a machine link effect fire type monster that has the top left link arrow, has an attack of 1500 and a link of 1. And its effect: 1 non-fire Sky Striker Ace monster. If this card is special summoned, you can target 1 Sky Striker spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand, gains 100 attack for each spell in your graveyard. You can only special summon Sky Striker Ace Kagari once per turn. So again, another boon for the link spamming. We'll just have to see how this plays out. Next up, we have Book of Moon. This is a quick play spell card. Target 1 face-up monster on the field. Change that target to face-down defense position. So this was a pretty nasty card back in the day, especially with the empty jar deck. So we'll have to see how this affects the meta and whether or not empty jar truly is making a comeback. The next card up on the list is the Phantom Knights Rank Up Magic Launch. This is a quick play spell, and its effect: during the main phase, target 1 Dark Xyz monster you control with no Xyz materials. Special summon from your extra deck 1 Dark Xyz monster that is 1 rank higher than that monster you control by using it as the Xyz material, and if you do, attach this card to it as additional Xyz material. This special summon is treated as an Xyz summon. Xyz materials attached to it also become Xyz materials on the summoned monster. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 Dark Xyz monster you control. Attach 1 the Phantom Knights monster from your hand to that monster as Xyz material. Whew, that is a mouthful. This is pretty nasty for those Xyz decks out there, and I would be betting that this card will make Xyz decks almost a viable option in the competitive realm. The next card on the list is a doozy. It is Solemn Warning. This is a counter trap. When a monster or monsters would be summoned, or when a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated that includes an effect that special summons a monster or monsters, pay 2,000 life points, negate that summon or activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So this is kind of like Solemn Judgment's little brother. Solemn Warning could really be what we're looking for in regards to some negation that isn't hand traps, because right now hand traps are huge in the game. The last card on the list is Soul Drain. This is a continuous trap. Activate by paying 1,000 life points. Monsters that are banished, as well as monsters in the graveyard, cannot activate their effects that start a chain. So a little bit of a tweak to the effect there. It used to be that banished and monsters in the grave cannot activate their effects at all. This tweaks it so that only those effects that would start a chain cannot be activated. So we'll have to see how this affects things. I know that this was a card that I personally used a lot in my unbeatable combo hypothetical scenario. Basically, it prevented all effects from being activated, prevented your opponent from declaring an attack, and just run roughshod right over your opponent. I'm interested to see how this card, being at 3, affects the meta. Personally, I would like to see how all of these changes to the Forbidden Limited list that I've gone over for the past 3 weeks affect the meta. Next week, I will definitely be going over that. And hopefully some of you guys will call in or email me or contact me through social media and let me know how you think these changes will affect the meta. Or for those of you that have already been playing in some regional qualifiers and YCSs over the past few weeks, let me know how this list has affected the meta or even your local meta. Please let me know so that I can bring this information to everybody else. That's pretty much all we have for Yu-Gi-Oh! This week. On to the next segment. In Pokemon news, Pokemon Go Community Day voting winner. Here's who's leading. Voting has now concluded for Pokemon Go's Community Day in a curious new experiment that saw people around the world completing research tasks in order to tell the game who they wanted to show up in February's Community Day. Machop, Dratini, Rhyhorn, or Vulpix. Voting ran the length of February 1st, and now it's concluded, with the winner to be announced soon. Note that even if you still have research tasks lined up in your queue, they will no longer count towards voting. According to the Pokemon Go blog, Niantic will announce the winner on Monday, February 3rd, 3 days after voting closed. As an informal poll that Niantic ran on Twitter gave Rhyhorn a solid lead, and that's who is most likely going to take the whole thing home. Twitter polls aren't always indicative of the wide player base here, but there is a reason this could be more useful in this instance. That's because you could vote more than once so long as you completed multiple research tasks, and that meant committed players could stack up a whole bunch of them if they really wanted to make their votes counted. Combine that with the fact that only more committed players were likely paying much attention anyways, and you've got a whole voting system that skews heavily towards the sort of people that talk online. And those people on Twitter and elsewhere overwhelmingly favored Rhyhorn. Now, Rhyhorn isn't the real goal. It's the third-tier evolution, Rhyperior. And the Community Day move would make Rhyperior one of the most potent rock-type attackers in the game, capable of filling out a brutal team alongside SmackDown Tyranitar. Considering the fact that rock has long been one of the most useful raiding types, a powerful Rhyperior would make a solid addition to anyone's lineup. This is pretty much all we have for Pokemon news this week. On to the next segment. In Magic the Gathering news, Mana Strike launches worldwide for Android and iOS. Netmarble announced on the 29th that Magic Mana Strike is now available worldwide for Android and iOS devices. Mana Strike is Netmarble's first game in the Magic universe. Most gamers know Magic for its physical and digital card game, Magic the Gathering. Mana Strike is a more strategy-focused take on the franchise, similar to games like Clash Royale. Now, the title is free to play, offering both an in-game currency, gold, and a premium currency, gems. Cards are still a part of the experience as you play them to summon units and cast spells on the battlefield. It isn't the first time we've seen Magic escape its card game roots on mobile, as we had the puzzle game Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest launch back in 2015. Netmarble announced Mana Strike back in February of 2018. Back then, it was only known as Project M. Mana Strike also has a story connection to Magic's world, as its plot revolves around Tyrant of Worlds Nicol Bolas, creating a parallel universe as he tries to find a weakness that can destroy the Planeswalkers. So if you love your Magic the Gathering lore, you'll get some of that here. That's pretty much all we have for Magic the Gathering news this week. On to the next segment. In gaming news, Sony Survey to gauge interest for PlayStation 4's remote play on rival consoles. A survey by Sony is gauging interest in possible future additions to the PlayStation 4's remote play, including expanding the feature to rival consoles. Remote play allows PlayStation 4 owners to play games remotely on other devices, including the PlayStation Vita and PC, as well as on iOS and Android smartphones and tablets. The 7.0 update for the PlayStation 4 in October of last year, which expanded this feature to all Android phones, also added the option to connect the PlayStation 4's DualShock controller wirelessly through Bluetooth. Now, it appears that Sony is not yet done with rolling out improvements for remote play, as suggested by a survey that was posted online by Redditor You Read It Here First. The rather lengthy survey asked the respondents' interest ranging from not at all appealing to extremely appealing on a variety of what may be future developments for remote play, including using the feature with rival consoles Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. Other questions that You Read It Here First posted on the online forum, which also included screenshots of the survey, include expanding the screen real estate by hiding unused controls, customizable button layout, utilizing controllers of other consoles, and mouse keyboard setups, parental controls to allow multiple users, and enabling PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games. Honestly, in my opinion, this sounds an awful lot like Microsoft's Project xCloud, which would allow the same thing, play of Xbox games on other platforms such as Android devices, iPhones, and PCs. We'll have to see what Sony does with this in the future. Also in gaming news, a sketchy Breath of the Wild 2 leak might have just revealed the official title and gameplay details. Nintendo might not reveal any new Switch hardware this year, but fans eager for news about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 might be in luck if a new 4chan leak with an official title and gameplay details is true. The sequel to the wildly successful Switch launch title was announced at E3 2019, and Nintendo has only dropped a few hints about how far along Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 is via multiple job openings that were posted for the development team. However, an alleged leak that surfaced Friday might have revealed the upcoming game's title and a handful of gameplay details. Either that or it's a very spirited fan wish list. The information comes from an anonymous user on the sketchy online forum 4chan. The user who posted the information didn't disclose their sources or provide any evidence to back up their claims, but many of the assertions align with the trailer Nintendo debuted at E3 2019. The most noteworthy bits of information are the title, The Legend of Zelda Bond of the Triforce, and that Zelda would be a playable character that helps Link on his new adventure. Considering the prevalence of Zelda in the trailer, for them to be adventuring companions does make a lot of sense. Now, here are all the specific claims from the 4chan post. Game logo and title revealed as Bond of the Triforce. Trailer relatively soon. Zelda playable in dungeons for puzzle solving. Switch between them in real time. Zelda tags along with Link in the overworld and now can harness the power of nature to assist Link, such as changing the weather. Animals will play a much larger role in the gameplay. Rideable bear shown in the trailer. New enemies, levers and tektites, and some sort of snaky enemy shown. Magic gauge scene, maybe for Zelda. Slingshot returns, as well as a new plow-looking weapons Link uses to charge into a large horde of enemies. Visually looks a lot like Breath of the Wild. Music playing is a remix of the Zelda 2 title theme. Now, the E3 trailer for Breath of the Wild 2 implied fans would finally get to play as Princess Zelda in the sequel, or at the very least, she would be a more consistent companion to Link. Now, the two of them are seen exploring an ancient ruin where they find Ganondorf's mummified corpse that reanimates to pose a new threat to Hyrule. If that's actually the case, a title like Bond of the Triforce would make a lot of sense. The Triforce is a 3-part ancient relic left behind by the golden goddess Din, Nehru, and Ferrer after they created the world and left Hyrule behind to ascend into the heavens. The 3 pieces are called the Triforce of Power, Wisdom, and Courage, respective. They are almost always associated with Ganondorf as power, Zelda as wisdom, and Link as courage. Breath of the Wild 2 will introduce Ganondorf incarnate instead of a more godly creature like Calamity Ganon. With the possibility that Zelda will be playable, a title like Bond of the Triforce seems right on the money. Could the game explore the relationship between Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf somehow? Plus, it's better than the janky-sounding Breath of the Darkness rumor that surfaced on 4chan back in October. This latest set of 4chan leaks also states that Zelda would be crucial in helping Link traverse dungeons and solve puzzles. Now, that aligns with 2 previous job listings suggesting Breath of the Wild 2 would have many more dungeons sprinkled in. The new game could pull inspiration from past Zelda titles like Twilight Princess, which featured 9 expansive dungeons plus 2 mini-dungeons. To top it off, other job openings also mention that the team is focusing on developing new enemies to battle. The alleged leak mentioned 3 classic monsters from other Zelda games, levers, tektites, and a serpent enemy that might have been referring to rope. Besides Ganondorf, Nintendo hasn't teased any of the baddies gamers might be facing with Breath of the Wild 2, but introducing iconic enemies from other games would be a fun bit of fan service that series diehards would undoubtedly love. We might never be able to verify these Breath of the Wild 2 rumors, but they do align with some clear trends teased in the game's trailer that also link up with Nintendo job listings. The 4chan poster may have just connected all the dots based on public information about the sequel, carefully crafting a fake leak. For now, take all of this with a bit of skepticism. The Breath of the Wild sequel might be released later this year in 2020. That's pretty much all we have for video game news this week. On to the next segment. In entertainment news, Bad Boys for Life sets new box office record. After 3 weeks in theaters, Sony's Bad Boys for Life is officially the highest grossing installment in the action comedy series. The Will Smith and Martin Lawrence-led threequel has made $291 million globally to date, pushing it past previous franchise record holder 2003's Bad Boys 2 and its $271 million haul. The first entry, 1995's Bad Boys, ended its box office run with $141 million worldwide. Now, Bad Boys for Life remained victorious overseas for the 3rd weekend in a row, bringing in another $30.8 million from 63 foreign markets. The movie also rolled again in North America, where it picked up $17.7 million for a domestic tally of $148 million. Outside the US, top earning territories included the United Kingdom with 14.8 million, Germany with 12.7 million, Mexico with 10.5 million, and Australia with 10 million. In other box office milestones, Lionsgate's Knives Out is also nearing the $300 million mark. Rian Johnson's murder mystery has made $293.7 million globally to date, with $138 million of that bounty coming from international audiences. Now, following Bad Boys on box office charts, Universal and Amblin's World War I drama 1917 had another solid weekend in theaters, adding $20.9 million from 61 foreign territories. Sam Mendes' acclaimed movie has amassed $249 million at the worldwide box office, including $129 million abroad. Enthusiasm could continue to grow, especially if 1917 takes home the Oscar for Best Picture on February 9th. Now, another Universal title, Dolittle, placed third and earned $17.7 million from 63 international markets. All those box office receipts lift its tally to $71 million overseas and $126 million globally. The beleaguered film, starring Robert Downey Jr. as veterinarian who converses with his four-legged patients, debuted this past weekend in Mexico to $3.7 million, Germany to $2.8 million, Italy to $2.2, and the Philippines to $500,000. Dolittle carries a price tag near $180 million and looks to be a big money loser for the studio. That's pretty much all we have for entertainment news this week, as well as for all the other news categories. On to the final thoughts. Before we get to the final thoughts, here's a quick word from a few other podcasts you might find entertaining.
Hey, I'm Chen.
And I'm James.
We're from A Bloody Mess Podcast, the badly researched true crime podcast.
We straddle the boundaries between documentary and comedy, and our aim is to leave you laughing and thinking, wow, I didn't know that.
So once you're done with this podcast, add us to your download lists and give us a go. Have a nice day.
Bye.
There's been a murder of podcast.
Hello! Do you listen to podcasts? Did you seriously just give me that look? I knew you listened to podcasts, but do you listen to the Bare Naked Ladies? Wait, don't hit fast forward. Yes, there's a band out there called Bare Naked Ladies. They are quirky, fun, comedic, and excellent musicians. If you love alternative 90s music with a little jazz, rap, and country mixed in at different times, then you've got to try this band out. And we will lead you through a journey of getting to love this band. We have 3 or 4 people with different levels of bare naked experience. We have Aaron, who's our music expert that breaks down each song. We will try to be informative, but also, we're all friends, so we like to have as much fun as possible. If you are a moderate fan of BNL, then you'll find new experiences and information. If you're a BNL fanatic like me, then I bet you too will find a song that is a deep dive that you never knew of. We sometimes have guests after the first letter. Oh, did I not mention that? We are Bare Naked ABCs, and the ABCs represents that we discuss the songs alphabetically. So come try us out on all platforms where podcasts are downloaded. Bare Naked ABCs. And no, we are not nude during the recordings.
Bare Naked. Bare Naked. Bare Naked. ABCs.
Hello, future listeners. We are Historical AF. I'm Ashley.
I'm Keena.
And I'm Natalie.
We are 2 librarians and a historian bringing the funny, weird, spooky, and morbid historical nuggets you never knew you needed in your ear holes every Sunday.
And once a month, we bring you extra AF episodes full of your stories and history in the news.
And we do this while hitting the giggle water and gracing the world with our foul mouths and wit.
So if you love to laugh and you like history, true crime, and the paranormal, then we are the podcast for you, and your girls can't wait for you to join us.
You can find us on all major podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. For a full list of ways to listen, go to historicalafpodcast.wordpress.com. And while you're there, you can check out the photos that accompany each episode.
Yeah, bye. We'll see you soon. I don't know. That'll probably scare him away.
Yeah.
Probably.
Come to us.
Come to the dark side. We have vodka.
And
Yeah.
cookies.
Hell yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's all we have for this week. I hope you've been both entertained and informed. If there's anything on this episode that you would like to make a comment or have a question about, you can contact me through several methods. You can email me through hazardousverbal@gmail.com. Check out the website. There's links to all my social media, as well as a contact form that you can fill out. You can also send me a voice message through Skype. The Skype ID is Ichimoto1. If you send me a message, I will make sure to read it on the air in a future episode. Or if you leave a voice message, I'll make sure to play it in a future episode. If you would like to support the show, there is a support the show page on the website. You can also go to TCG Player and look up Shiro-chan Games and purchase any of the Yu-Gi-Oh cards that I have for sale there. And coming soon, if I can make affiliate, you can also subscribe to my Twitch stream. And in the future, once I make affiliate, I will be having subscriber-only streams where I will record a podcast episode live on the air for my subscribers. So that's exciting news. Like I said, next week I will be going over how the changes to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Limited list will be affecting or will have already affected the national meta, as well as any local meta news that you guys submit. Since there's nothing else to really talk about, I guess that's it. So this is Shiro-chan signing off. Peace.